In this video, I'm going to speak directly to teachers in the US. I've been teaching overseas in international schools for the past 23 years, but I keep hearing about what it's like teaching in US schools. And the thing that got me motivated to make this video is the constant sort of feeds that I see on my Twitter, my X, about teachers who are asking for help with buying teaching resources. And it just absolutely blows my mind that teachers are resorted to what amounts to almost begging for help to fund teaching resources so they can do their job. And this is something that I've never experienced myself. And it kind of just got me thinking about whether you guys really should be thinking about doing something different, whether it's the time to consider getting out and heading overseas and doing what I've done. And maybe you don't even know that it's a possibility. This video is about the 10 major pain points of what it must be like teaching in the US and doing a comparison of those 10 pain points with what it's actually like teaching in an international school. Okay, so let's get started. 10 major pain points compared side by side. Pay and savings. So rather than me really talking about what's on one side with the US side, you can just have a look at those things. But this one starts out with something that's fairly well known, I think. Low pay, below the average for degree level. Many teachers need side hustles in the US, and that just blows my mind that this is a reality. Why should a teacher need to get another job just to pay the bills? So therefore, of course, limited savings potential. I know some teachers can stack away the savings if they live frugally, and I know that situations must vary greatly across the US in terms of different states as well. So let me just focus on international teaching. So in international schools, salaries are very competitive. Often they're tax-free. If they're not tax-free, then salaries are often taxed at a very low rate in certain countries. I've worked in schools where I've not had to pay tax at all. It was either paid for by the school or where the tax rate was just really low, like 8 or 9%, for example. But the big bonus with working in international schools actually is the extra stuff that you get on top of the salary, which is very competitive already. Maybe the salary is already more than you would get back home. But on top of that, you are getting free housing, or you're getting a housing allowance. You're getting flights paid annually. So flights back to your country of origin, not just for you, but if you've got dependents, then your dependents, your kids, they'll all get provided with those flights as well. And then the big thing is that you're often getting, we'll get to this later actually, but health insurance as well. Higher salary and higher potential to save. Respect and autonomy. So a big thing about teaching in international schools, which is very different to my own experience back in Australia as well, is that you feel much more respected as a professional, not just by parents and the students themselves as well in the classroom, but by your leaders, your administrators, who give you respect and they give you autonomy. Process, for example, of appraisal is very much focused on your own goal setting. And you're not going to have someone coming in and just doing a tick box at the end of the year and saying whether you are a good teacher or not. And there's more respect, there's more autonomy. You're trusted as professionals, and you are trusted in terms of flexibility with lesson planning and curriculum development. Burnout and workload. We hear a lot about teachers in the US quitting, being burnt out, not being able to handle it. I see this in Australia as well. The work you've got to do outside of your own teaching hours, heavy grading and paperwork and bureaucracy and protocols and all that kind of stuff. There's a much better work-life balance, I feel, in international schools, and definitely you're provided with more planning time, more collaboration time to get together with your colleagues and do those kinds of things as well. So that is a big part of international teaching, getting the right work-life balance. I was at a school, for example, where 3 times a year the professional development would be just a series of, group activities where you go out and do all these things that were arranged by your colleagues. You might go kayaking, you might play football on the football pitch, and you'd just be spending the whole day doing all of these collaborative, fun things just to have that sense of community accentuated, I suppose. And it was all about work-life balance. Classroom behavior, a big thing. When I was teaching in Australia, a long time ago now, 23 years ago, I was more worried about classroom management and crowd control and fights at the playground, but certainly behavior in my classroom was probably the major concern and the major stress point. That's not the case in my experience in international schools. In fact, I've rarely had to even raise my voice in my class. There are very, very few management behavior problems in the schools that I've been at. Maybe I've been lucky. Maybe in other places there are some issues, but it certainly would be far less than what you might have experienced in your professional career so far. And a part of this could just be the selective nature of international schools, but it also could be the culture of the students that are coming into international schools, maybe the backgrounds have come from. And certainly, if you're teaching local students, in many cases, students just have greater respect for education, for authority, for teachers, and so therefore their classroom behaviour is a lot better. In international schools, you've got greater access to resources. Some of them are for profit, but many of them are non-profit, where the money just goes back into the education. And you've often got modern technology resources. Every kid has a laptop, for example. In some schools, it's a part of the fees, and the kids are given laptops as a part of their tuition. In other cases, they bring their own, but teachers are all provided with new laptops, and they get updated every sort of couple of years, I suppose. And so they're provided to us. We can take them home and use them as much as we like, take them on holidays if we want to, as long as we look after them. And no out-of-pocket expenses. I've certainly never had to buy any resources for my classroom. I just order the stuff that I want and it appears the next day. Testing pressure. So you're certainly not judged on your test results, and you certainly don't have this teach to the test culture that exists in some places. The emphasis in international schools is more on inquiry and creativity. It's more of a holistic learning that's valued. Of course, there are rigorous tests and especially for teaching grade 12. So I teach the very rigorous international baccalaureate. So it's high stakes for kids. They're applying to really top universities all around the world. And so it is important. And there is some stress there in terms of results. And we have our own sense of pride in our results, of course. But you're not judged on those results in the same way that you might be judged in other places. Politics and censorship. So this is a bit of a strange one, I suppose. And I've not had any experience of being told what I can and can't teach. I've not been told that I can't teach certain things if I was teaching a history unit. I've never been asked to avoid any content at all. It might be country specific in some cases, but I've not had any issues. For example, I taught a unit on democracy when I was in China, when I was in Hong Kong, around about the time of the protests that were taking place in Hong Kong. I was teaching democracy and it wasn't a problem. No one said, well, you shouldn't be teaching that. Obviously, there are cultural sensitivities you need to be aware of, but I've not been told to change my curriculum in any way. Career growth. So this is a big thing, actually. In international schools, there is often a career progression beyond the classroom, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you just go from classroom to administrator. You might have positions of responsibility where you're still in the classroom and you're still teaching, but your career is progressing, you're being paid more, you've got more responsibility, more involvement in the decision making that takes place in the school. And if you want to progress further up to, say, being a principal, then of course there are those opportunities. In many cases, when jobs of responsibility are advertised, they're advertised internally, and internal applicants are encouraged. And there's obviously pros and cons about internal versus external recruitment, but there are lots and lots of career pathways that for those who do want to progress and move on up into positions of responsibility. Safety, this is just a non-issue in international schools that I've taught at. Even though we might have security, we certainly don't have any, or I've not experienced any instances of violence, whether related to students or any outside influences either. So yeah, we have fire drills and we do lockdown drills just in case, but I've never experienced anything. I've never seen any violence, hardly ever seen even a skirmish or a fight on the playground either. So very safe environments. Healthcare and retirement. So this is a great thing, and the fact that you are provided with full private healthcare, and this often covers your dependents. So in many cases, your husband or wife or partner and your children as well. So this has been the case in every international school that I've been at, where I've been provided with private health cover for my dependents. And in many cases, there is a retirement scheme as well, where money can be voluntarily contributed to a retirement scheme, and that can be matched by the employer as well. And another thing on top of that is bonuses and gratuities and all these kinds of things that can come with your contract. If you stay for a certain amount of time, then you can often receive extras as well. So healthcare and retirement are things that are pretty secure. I think that that's an important consideration for international teachers, because back in your home country, you might have things like the 401k, and some international teachers might forget to make their own contributions, but many schools have these provisions that you can contribute to. Then you can often receive extras as well. So healthcare and retirement are things that are pretty secure. I think that that's an important consideration for international teachers, because back in your home country, you might have things like the 401k, and some international teachers might forget to make their own contributions, but many schools have these provisions that you can contribute to. All right, so in conclusion, on this slide, I've got teaching abroad isn't perfect, but for many educators, it's a breath of fresh air, both financially and professionally. So absolutely, it's the best thing that I've ever done. And sure, not every school is the same, so you've got to do your research once you make the decision, and I hope you do make the decision to investigate international schools, international teaching. Once you get out there, you need to be aware that not every school is the same, but the top tier schools pay very, very well. The packages are pretty amazing. You'll get an incredible lifestyle, and you'll be rewarded financially, professionally, and personally as well. I think living overseas and working in international schools is just such a life-changing experience. So I encourage everyone to consider this, especially if you're not happy in your current situation. If you love to travel, if you want to be rewarded financially and professionally, if you want that respect, and you want a change in your life, then definitely consider teaching internationally. So check out international teacher recruitment agencies, look into what recruitment fairs are like, drop a comment down below, ask me anything you like, and I'll reply and help you if I can. I hope you liked this video. If you did, give it a like and maybe a subscribe, and check out my other content. Thank you, and have a great day.